20 years of absolute silence. Then the phone rang. It was my son, Derek. He didn't call to mend the past. He called to deliver a weapon. "I'm getting married," he hissed, the venom thick enough to choke on. "You'll want to be there, so everyone can finally see the wretched woman in her rags." He wanted a spectacle. He wanted to parade my shame in front of his new, rich family in Napa Valley. He thought he had me cornered, but the woman he thought he'd buried was standing in a Manhattan high-rise surrounded by the proof of an empire he knew nothing about. I pressed the phone tight and I laughed, a cold, steel laugh he'd never heard. My only words, "I'll be there." This wasn't an invitation. It was a declaration of war. How do you crash a betrayal? You show up in the one car that changes everything. What happens when the wretched woman steps out of a Rolls-Royce Ghost? My name is Olivia, and for 20 long years I was a ghost to my only son, Derek. He didn't know the mother who raised him with scraped knees and late-night storybooks. He only knew the monster his father George painted, the wretched woman. For 2 decades, I wore that toxic nickname like a scarlet letter on the wrong side of the tracks in Newark, New Jersey. The world thought I was broken and forgotten, but I had risen from those ashes in silence. The call came on a quiet afternoon. I was in my high-rise study overlooking the Manhattan skyline, surrounded by ledgers and deeds that proved I'd built an empire nobody knew about. The phone flashed a number I didn't recognize. A primal tug of blood made me answer. "Olivia," the voice said first, twisting the knife by refusing to call me Mom. "It's Derek. I'm getting married," he stated flatly. No warmth, just a sneer. "Of course, you'll want to be there. I'll finally get the chance to show everyone what I've told them about you, the wretched woman. You'll sit there in your hand-me-downs and they'll see you for what you really are." The old Olivia would have crumbled, spiraled back into shame, but that woman was dead. I pressed the phone tight, and a quiet, cold laugh, a laugh that carried more steel than sorrow, curled my lips. "I'll be there," I said simply, and hung up. Derek thought he was arranging my public humiliation. He was arranging my grand entrance. Hold up. If the thought of missing what happens next gives you a sick feeling in your stomach, you already know the stakes are dangerously high. Don't risk losing this story. Hit subscribe right now and lock yourself in. If you refuse, go ahead and comment below. I'm too stubborn to subscribe, and I fear the end will ruin me. To understand the venom, you have to rewind. I was just Olivia, a bright-eyed kid from upstate New York, who thought marrying George Jones was my golden ticket. His family, the Joneses, ran a respectable trucking company and thought they were the upper crust of New England. At our wedding, George's mom whispered loud enough for the whole ballroom to hear, "She doesn't belong in this family." That whisper became the ruin of my name. Then came the 2008 financial crash and George's shady bookkeeping in the family business. When the authorities came knocking, George's family moved at light speed. They threw me under the Greyhound bus. I was accused of signing papers, of taking money I'd never seen. And George, the man I had once trusted with my life, stood silent. He didn't defend me. He let me be the scapegoat. I will never forget the day they led me away in handcuffs. Derek was a little guy, clutching the frame of the doorway, screaming for me. George's mom snatched him back, shielding his ears, as if I were literal poison. In that moment, I became the wretched woman they wanted gone. Their connections, their lies, and George's silence sealed my fate. Seriously, you're still watching? That means you hate injustice. If you don't subscribe right now, you are literally siding with the people who let this woman go to prison. Prove your moral compass is working. Subscribe. If you can't, write, "I'm okay with George's betrayal" in the comments. Let's see your true colors. I walked out of the federal pen with a plastic bag, the clothes on my back, and a heart that had learned to expect nothing. No George, no Derek. The state gave me a bus ticket and $40. The label felon slammed every door in my face, so I took the scraps. I scrubbed restrooms in crummy Jersey Shore motels. I mopped floors in downtown Chicago offices. At night, under a library lamp, I was a student again. I devoured books on real estate, finance, and entrepreneurship. Knowledge was the only currency they couldn't take. My real break came from overhearing a conversation in an office break room about a new platform, Airbnb. A tiny idea became an obsession. I rented my first room in a Bay Area apartment and turned the trickling cash into a flow. I lived in one room and rented the other full-time. I hustled harder than I had in my whole life. Within 2 years, my pennies had become thousands. What started as a tiny side hustle became a silent empire, stretching from Charlotte, North Carolina, to Houston, Texas. I didn't need billboards or headlines. I kept my silence, knowing that revealing my power before the time was right would be a huge L. This comeback story is a roadmap, but if you bail now, you'll never learn the secret to Olivia's total victory. Don't be the person who regrets not knowing the ending. Subscribe now. If you're going to miss out, tell everyone why you're making a huge mistake in the comments. I'm content with my mediocre life, so I won't subscribe. The wedding day arrived. The location was some fancy vineyard estate outside of Napa Valley. The car I ordered wasn't just any ride. A sleek, silver Rolls-Royce Ghost. It wasn't about showing off, it was about symbolism. I was the ghost of Derek's past, returning in a form he couldn't ignore. My look? A custom, deep navy suit, sharp enough to cut glass with pearls at my throat. It screamed, "I am not the woman you buried." The engine's quiet growl drew every head. Whispers started moving through the crowd before the car even stopped. My driver opened the door, and my 2 bodyguards stepped out first. Then slowly, I stepped onto the pavement. The air shifted. I locked eyes with George first. The colour drained from his face. He'd seen a ghost. Then I found Derek. The smirk he'd worn all morning vanished. His knees seemed to give out. He expected a woman in hand-me-downs with shame in her eyes. He got a magnate stepping out of a ghost. I walked forward, straight to the beautiful bride, Sophia. "Congratulations," I said, offering a calm smile. "I'm Olivia, Derek's mother." The silence was so loud it was deafening. His perfect day was already crumbling beneath him. This is the moment of truth. You've come too far to be a spectator. Show your loyalty to the comeback story and subscribe right now. If you won't subscribe, it can only mean you think the wretched woman deserves to fail. Go ahead, comment, "I think the mother is still the villain," and condemn yourself. George's sister, drunk on arrogance, announced a toast to Derek's grace for forgiving the past. I rose slowly. The room hushed. "A toast," I said, my voice clear, "to Derek and Sophia." Then I cut through the air. I have been called the wretched woman. I have been painted as a mother who chose disgrace. But let me be clear tonight. I did not abandon my son. I was taken from him. I was led away in handcuffs while those who should have spoken the truth, like George, stood silent. I walked through prison, I scrubbed floors, and I built a life again. I did not crawl back. I rose. Derek finally snapped. He shot up from his chair, his voice cracking. "You think this is your stage? You've ruined everything. You abandoned me." He was shouting, but all his fury did was expose him. I stayed calm, watching the storm rage. My composure was stone. His fury was a wild tantrum. "Sit down, Derek," I said softly. "You're only proving what I already knew." He finally saw it. He hadn't disgraced me. He had disgraced himself. Before I left, I met him in a side room. "I don't hate you, Derek," I said, my voice empty of feeling. "But I don't love you either, not anymore. That bond died the day you chose their lies over the truth. Whatever you carry now, that's on you." I walked out of that Napa estate, the so-called wretched woman, leaving not in disgrace, but in power. Derek was left with the pieces of his own ruin. You've seen the truth. You've watched the reckoning. If you still haven't subscribed, you're not just a passive viewer. You're an active collaborator in Derek's attempt to erase his mother. Do the right thing and subscribe before your conscience ruins your day. If you are truly heartless, comment right now. I will never subscribe, and I hope Olivia is forgotten.